Get going. Hey Dan, how's it going? And hey everyone, welcome back for another off the cuff chat with me, FPL Mez. And today I have a very, very special guest for, I guess, Halloween special for those that are celebrating Halloween, especially over in the UK and the US. I know it's like big, pretty big over there in the US. It hasn't been that big for us over here in Australia, but anyway, we'll get into that in a moment. But how are you, Dan? Great to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. Really excited to be here. I've been watching your Off the Cup series from the beginning, and I have to say, like, the progress you've made from your very first episode to now has been incredible. I was watching your first episode the other day.
Oh God!
Just the graphics, the sound, everything's just so much improved. So really nice work there.
Thank you so much. Look, I really appreciate you saying that. It's been a hell of a journey, honestly. It really has. Like from where things have sort of started. Actually, I'm just going to check if things are streaming on YouTube. I can't really. I don't know if things are coming through. Is it all coming through properly on there? I don't know if anyone's live on there. Oh, I can see it. Yeah. It's just kind of giving me a different sort of feedback on there. So it's definitely been an interesting experience, kind of starting when I did and it's been, I honestly, like I found it very different, like just talking on my own and just rambling away. And then I think when I started doing it, it was like, we'll just see how this goes. And, it might be something that works out really well, or it doesn't work out well at all. And I'll just kind of treat it like a bit of a video blog diary and, audio diary of my experience and how things have been going. So it's been a hell of a journey, and I'm so glad that I did it, because I've had a lot of fun in the process, like, especially with the highs and lows. Like, it's been a bit of a shitstorm. I'll obviously talk about my team and your team, a little bit later, but it has been a fucking shitstorm, of a season as well. So I'm really glad. And obviously when I started, I didn't know how things were going to go and, how bad the season was going to be or anything like that. But actually yesterday I was thinking, if my season was going well, would I have sort of done something like this? I'm not sure. Because I was obviously doing some streams last season as well with FPL Nim, and that was a lot of fun. But with the time differences and things like that, like the clocks have just changed, for the US, for the UK and Australia, and you guys, your clocks are changing next week. But it makes it so challenging to kind of do stuff like this. So yeah, it was supposed to be like a bit of a vlog, and then it became like getting people like you on, which is amazing. Yeah, just friends that I've made in the FPL community, and it's been wonderful to get to know you over a couple of seasons. It feels like now, but mostly you turning up for the Off the Cuff series as well, and sort of supporting me from afar. So yeah, I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like it makes better content when you have a bad game week and we can just rant and swear and get mad at all of our assets for not returning. And we've both had red arrows this game week, so I'm ready for it today.
Yeah. You know what? I was so Dan and I were chatting very briefly before we jumped on this morning, and we were saying how I was saying that maybe I would have felt differently by Wednesday. So it's Wednesday morning over here in Australia. And so when we tweeted out that we're going to be, doing the show and having Dan on, I was like, oh, maybe like the game week's been pretty bad anyway, and we were going to be talking about captaincy swings. And then it became like this, the Wolves and the Newcastle match was just absolutely mad. Like I caught up on the highlights yesterday for that match, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to feel differently by Wednesday about how the game week has gone. But no, I don't. I'm so fucking mad about the game week. I'm so annoyed. I'm still so mad.
Don't mention VAR to me. If you mention VAR to me, I'm going to go off on a big long rant about that stupid decision.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? So frustrating. And so just for our listeners as well, and those that are watching on YouTube, I am recovering from a cold. So I had a cold on the weekend, and I've been pretty much bedded, and so I lost all sort of sense of time and like day and night and all of that. And so while the matches are on like stupid o'clock over here in Australia, I was waking up middle of the night, occasionally putting on the games and sort of going, fuck, that's still shit. Go back to bed, and snooze for another 2 hours. And then I caught some of the United and City match as well, and I was like, oh wow, this one's entertaining. I'm going to watch this for a bit. But the whole weekend sort of just passed by with me coughing and very sort of nasally. So I apologize in advance if I cough throughout this stream. I've got some Strepsils and hot water and my coffee to keep me going this morning. Actually, I forgot to put some amaretto in there, as I mentioned. I think I needed that this morning, which is a real shame. So hi to everyone that is on Spaces. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining us on YouTube as well. Nick, Marcus, Tien, Neil, great to have you here, Neil, and everyone else that is tuned in on Spaces as well. So I'm going to start with the Halloween sort of thing, and I apologize for Spaces. There's a bunch of videos and things as well. So if you do want to sort of switch over to YouTube, you're welcome to switch over to YouTube. But I'm going to start with Halloween. And Halloween over here is really interesting. And so for those that can't see this, and I'm going to just say it out loud because, what the fuck? One of our FPL community, Australian community members, she posted this saying, "This is Australia, not America. Fuck off with your Halloween shit, you little cunts." And I love that. And it's so funny because I've come across this same sentiment over here a few times, in the past as well, where Aussies have sort of reacted we don't celebrate Halloween. Why are people knocking on my fucking door? Kind of thing. I live in an apartment, so I don't really get that. I don't get sort of people knocking on the door or anything like that. But growing up in the UK, I used to go out trick-or-treating with my elder siblings and my younger sibling, and we used to all dress up like ghosts or whatever. And that was a lot of fun as well. And we used to welcome trick-or-treaters as well. Do you still do anything like that, Dan?
Well, the thing about me is I grew up in the UK, as you know, And my
That's
mum
right.
was very much against Halloween. She hates ghosts. She hates demons. She refuses to watch horror movies. So I
Oh,
never went trick-or-treating as a kid.
oh
I,
no.
I have a very sad childhood. I never went trick-or-treating. Then I moved here to America, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? Like, everyone's in the streets in costumes. You walk
Yeah.
past a house, and it's like fully decorated with all sorts of crap all over the house. And I personally love it, to be honest. I'm huge with horror movies. I'm huge about Halloween. I live in California, so it's incredibly hot for the
Yeah.
whole year. And then when it gets to October, like the weather starts to change. So I just love Halloween, to be honest.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you know what? It's the same over here as well. Like I was reading up a little bit about Halloween and it talks a lot about sort of as the fall sort of comes in and the cooler climate and goes into the dark phase and all of that. I'm like, no, this really doesn't apply to the southern hemisphere. It's getting hotter and it's beautiful here and it's lighter. Like it's beautiful outside. It's 8 in the morning and the sun's gorgeous over here in Sydney, although it was a bit grim this morning. But yeah, it's hard to kind of, feel Halloweeny, on this side anyway. But I did try to do a little bit of Halloween stuff on my stream on YouTube anyway. I had to kind of get in on the blood action and all of that. I don't mind. I love horror movies and I love sort of actually the gory stuff I've got worse with over the years, but yeah, I do like a good horror movie. Anyway,
I always look for the most disturbing movie I can think of to watch during Halloween. I'm
yeah.
a big fan of all those movies like Martyrs and things like that. The gorier the better.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got on the screen, and I think you probably would have known that I would have gone here, with this particular one, and it's very like well timed in general. So, I think Dan, it would be really good to get to know you a little bit more as well, and we're kind of going back and starting very very sort of earlier on. For you, like 17? This was tweeted two years ago, I think, or a year ago.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Two years ago. Around like we're only 2 weeks out. Wow. Okay, so you tweeted this 2 years ago, so it's about 19 years old. Tell us about your experience of meeting young Messi as well, and those that are listening on Spaces, you would have seen this tweet, I think, go around again over the last couple of days with Messi winning his 8th Ballon d'Or. But over to you, Dan. Like, tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah, first of all, I feel like I'm pissing everyone off with this picture because
Nah.
every time Messi does anything, if he scores a goal, if he wins an award, if he wins a trophy, this tweet somehow gets retweeted and my notifications go crazy again. And I just feel like half the community are like, this
Dan,
fucking guy again.
you need to collect royalties with this. This is what Mariah Carey did with her Christmas soundtrack, right? She put that Christmas soundtrack out like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago or something, and she's collecting royalties up until this day. So you need to do something about that and get some sponsorship.
Yeah, it's a shame I didn't have my blue tick when I tweeted this. But yeah, this was crazy. So it was like 17 years ago, or 19 years ago now, and I was in Barcelona airport because I was on vacation in Barcelona at the time. And I remember just a couple of weeks before, I was watching a football show on Channel 4 in the UK, I think it was. And I really can't remember what the name was. I feel like it was Football Italia, but then it probably wouldn't be because that's all about the Italian league. So I can't quite remember what the show is. But they were talking about this young and up-and-coming player that plays for Barcelona called Lionel Messi. And they were showing all these clips of him, how good he was. And they were predicting that one day soon he'll be one of the best players in the world. And it's only because I just watched that show that when I saw him in Barcelona airport, I said to my mum, I think that's the guy I saw on TV the other day. They said he's going to be one of the best players in the world. And it's absolutely crazy that he was just freely walking around Barcelona airport and nobody knew who he was. He didn't have any security guard. He didn't have any fans around him. He just looked like a young kid with a backpack.
Yeah.
Looking kind of lost and confused, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I went up to him and I said to him, can I have a photo with you? And he clearly didn't have any idea what I was saying to him. So I did like my little gesture saying, can I have a picture?
Oh.
And he just smiled and we took the picture. and then he just headed on up to departures by himself. Again, this was in Barcelona, and not a single person was around him apart from me.
That's
And
that's
honestly, I
mad.
would have no idea. Yeah, I would have no idea who he was either if I hadn't just seen that TV show. And
Yeah.
then all of these years, it's crazy watching him just become more and more famous, become better and better. And now you couldn't get anywhere near him without his security guard like rugby tackling you. So this is like my cherished picture, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to feel bad about retweeting it every couple of months.
No, no, you shouldn't. And you know what? I did have a friend send me a message. I don't know. I think he's in the South Asia sort of subcontinent, and it was probably going to be very late. So I do apologize. I think this time round, obviously, it's with the time changes and everything. It's worked out really well for you guys over there in California, especially, and the UK, with it being sort of 9 p.m. when we started and 8 a.m. over here, which is nice sort of breakfast time over here for us. And I'm usually listening to stuff over here as well. But anyway, someone did tweet to me saying, "Can you please ask Dan about meeting Messi and the story behind that and everything?" So I really don't think people mind it. I think it's a nice reminder that once upon a time ago, the who is deemed as sort of god of football at the moment
Yeah,
was a regular human
I just
being, a
wish I
regular
was.
lad. Yeah.
I wish I was better looking at the time. Just look at that face. It's just chubby and sweaty, covered in zits. I'm like,
You
oh, jeez.
you can't tell. It just looks like you're blushing slightly there, and it's Barcelona. It's hot. So yeah, it's bound to be. You really don't look that bad there at all. If anything,
Thank you.
I mean, Messi looks like sweaty there as well, right? So
Well, he's probably nervous to meet me because he knows how good of a player I'm going to become in the
yeah.
future.
Well, he was probably thinking, "Oh shit, I've been recognized. Like I've been recognized. This is the start of it. Act cool, look good. Act cool. Everything's cool."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, what an experience though. And yeah, it's just and I love that you sort of mentioned that you knew that, yeah, this guy's gonna be could be something, one day. And I had a similar sort of experience, not with a footballer, but with Rafael Nadal. So um, I I've been following tennis for a very long time, but fun fact about sort of growing up in the UK and everything, and I used to be a ball kid at Wimbledon many years ago, many moons ago,
Oh,
when
wow.
right in the early days, and then I kept going back to Wimbledon, usually the qualifying round, and then working at Wimbledon through college, university, and all of that as well. So I kept getting a call back to go over, which was brilliant. I really enjoyed working on court number one. But in my early days as a ball kid, I did sort of come across Nadal and think, wow, this guy is amazing, and he wasn't very popular, at the time or anything, and then he won his first Grand Slam, and it was just so nice to kind of recognize that kind of potential so early on, and you just don't know how things are going to explode for a player or not, right? So yeah, what a wonderful experience, and good on you, and I'm glad that you've managed to get the picture and you're posting it and letting the world know as well. Or it's a nice reminder that there is a human being behind that godly figure that we now see out in the wild. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure like if I agree with him winning the Ballon d'Or this time, but
No,
yeah.
I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, I feel like the whole award ceremony and all of that is just a bit of a farce now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a little bit farcical. There's no doubt he's the best player in the world for a long time now. Um,
Yeah,
However, if it's based on the performance from last year, surely it has to be Haaland getting the treble, breaking all sorts of records for
that's
his goal
right.
scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, Messi won the World Cup, but I feel like if he hadn't won the World Cup, he would probably be nowhere near that top three, really. So
Well,
I don't know.
yeah,
I
I
feel
don't know.
indifferent.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know if it's a way of sort of saying, oh, let's just give him one because he's now sort of his career is sort of on the downward from a you know yeah, like just kind of retirement and stuff like that. I'm sure that's not that far away, although who knows, right? Like some of these players are just insane and, phenomenal with how well they are sort of, doing while they're sort of, like take Ronaldo. I think he's a couple of years, younger than me or something. Yeah, it's insane. I've just given away how old I feel now and how old I am. Anyway, swiftly
But yeah,
moving.
he's an incredible player. He deserves to get all of the Ballon d'Ors he ever wants.
Ah,
I just think if it's purely based on
yeah,
last season's performance, probably should be Haaland.
yeah, I agree. I agree. But I've got on the screen, let me just kind of get rid of these. I've got on the screen from last season. Was it last season? No, the season before. So I remember, I think when I first started following you, Dan, on Twitter, when it was Twitter as well back then, you obviously are a huge member of the FPL USA community over there. And I think, yeah, like how does it work over there? Is it sort of, did you sort of like with a bunch of other people just kind of get together and decided to, run, I guess, a bunch of like meetups and then, have this, like I think you're part of meets as well, right? And so how does the
Yeah.
community sort of, how's it organized, work over there? And yeah, it's obviously you're all spread out across east to west coast and sort of, north, south there. It's a big country. So yeah, how does it work over there?
Yeah, so it kind of started with FPL Australia, to be honest, because I saw how successful that was. And I ended up reaching out to Planner, who I know is in the chat here.
Yeah.
And I asked him for his advice, and I would like to create something similar for the USA.
Nice.
So I just created this FPL USA hashtag just to bring together all USA managers around the community so we can
Yeah.
all talk about FPL. Because honestly, when the UK goes to bed, you probably know this too, when the UK goes to bed, Twitter was like dead.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't know
is.
who to talk to, and I was kind of missing all of the good stuff. So I thought, oh, if I create FPL USA, we can all talk together, we can create group chats, and it's been really, really successful. I've met a lot of really cool people
Yeah.
in FPL USA, and one thing led to another, and eventually I had a phone call with Neema, who runs the FPL Meets initiative, of course, and I said I'd like to create something here for the USA. So he made me like the USA chairman, it's called. Kind of a
Nice.
silly title, really, but that's what we call it. Obviously, with the USA being so huge, I can't create all of these meetups myself. It would just be impossible. Like New York, for example, is closer to the UK than it is where I am, so
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
true.
make sense for me to lead them all. But we have like separate leads for each state, and I work with them to create the tweets, to help them organize it, to help bring people together. And now we've had FPL meets all around the country. It's been really successful. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's so good, and Sydney became a chapter in Meets as well, and yeah, like we've had a big we've got a big community over here, as you would have heard in some of the other spaces and YouTubes that we've done for off the cuff, but yeah, it's such a great vibe as well. I mean, we had a really good turnout just 2 weeks ago where we met up for the Liverpool Everton match, and yeah, we had a really good turnout like for that because the matches are on really late over here. It's really difficult, to kind of get that kind of a turnout. So it was really nice that everyone sort of turned up for it. It was the whole pub was so crowded anyway, so like it just made up for, like, it wasn't just 4 or 5 people sitting around a table kind of thing and just watching a game. It was hard to kind of find room in this pub, and it was a Liverpool sort of fan pub as well, so supporters pub. So yeah, no, but you've got the champion from Football is Life. Champion from 21-22 season over there as well. So yeah, that would have been such a fun sort of experience, like being there with the winner of FPL.
Yeah, so he actually lives quite close to me. He lives 30 minutes away
No
from me.
way. Yeah.
So yeah, so he was part of the Bay Area FPL Meets crew, which is the one that I personally lead.
Yeah.
So yeah, for Game Week 38, I convinced him to come to a Game Week 38 Meets with us, knowing that he could become champion at the end of the game week.
Yeah.
and it was just an insane experience. We were at a Leeds pub in San Francisco, and it was also the same day that Leeds had to win to stay in the Premier League, and they
Oh,
did.
wow. Yeah.
So half of the bar was Jamie celebrating winning FPL, and the other half was Leeds fans letting off flares and stuff inside the pub because they
Yeah.
just stayed up. It was insane, really
Oh,
insane.
wow. That's so cool. That's so cool. Like, honestly, I, saw this and I was like, what are the chances, right, that you're rubbing shoulders with the, the champion of FPL. And that was my first season. So, yeah, I was like still learning about FPL and sort of getting to know it and everything. And, I wasn't following many people actually on Twitter either because I was quite late getting onto, FPL Twitter. Like, it was a good sort of couple of months into my season anyway. But yeah, I had a really good, fun first season. And yeah, and I think that's when I started meeting the FPL community, like just online and just getting to know, you getting to know a whole bunch of other people. And you're absolutely right with the time zone. I think the time zone made a massive difference. Like, so when the UK is sleeping, yeah, the US was still awake, and there's a good couple of hours of that as well. Especially like I think getting up on a Saturday morning, there was actually there was a couple of like streams. I think that I can't remember who was doing them now, but there was a couple of really good streams that I would listen to before I was heading out for tennis. And yeah, so yeah, it's so nice to kind of have that, like from a global sort of community point of view. Depending on the time zone that you're in, you're always going to be catching some good content out there, or conversation, or just kind of community vibe, through Twitter. So yeah, I think there was a moment where we all
Absolutely.
thought X or Twitter was going to go down and it's going to disappear and everyone's going to move over to another bloody channel somewhere else. And I was like, oh shit, how's this going to work now? But yeah.
Yeah, we all moved to Threads and then realized after a couple of hours, oh, this is crap. Let's go back to Twitter.
I didn't even move to Threads. I didn't even sort of explore it. I think I wonder if I signed up. You know when you just sign up for shit and you sort of go, you get emails coming through. I'm still getting emails coming through from random things that I signed up for years ago, and I'm like, oh, you're still there. Unsubscribe.
Yeah, exactly. I need to be better at that. My inbox is constantly full every day with all this kind of, you signed up for this, you signed up for this. And it's
Yeah.
very easy just to tap the unsubscribe button, and I never do. I just delete. I need to be better at that.
Yeah, yeah. So Dan, the other thing that I started to get to know you on a little bit more, and is your amazing skills of memeing and yeah, creating these great memes as well. I mean, like this is not a meme. This was just hilarious. I was like, that is too similar. Like Max Kilman looking like this escapee. That was brilliant. But yeah, just for your humor.
Look how
like,
happy he looks to
I
meet me.
know, right? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like some of these are just brilliant. I think like just how do you do this? How do you do this so fast? Like, what do you do, Dan? Like, what's your sort of when you're not BlackWolf on Twitter and everywhere else, like wherever are you on sort of other sort of social platforms or anything like that, doing anything? Are you mostly sort of active on Twitter as BlackWolf?
I'm just mostly active on Twitter.
Yeah.
I've tried the other social media sites, and
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of them. So I just
Yeah.
stick to Twitter. Then of course I have my podcast that I do with
Yeah.
Brian and
Nice.
Bucks. But other than that, it's just Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. But what do you do for your day job? Like, what's, like, because you are whipping these things up really fast, right? Like, look at this one. This is so good. Seriously.
Well, thank you for appreciating them. So yeah, I work from home. So
Yeah.
it's quite easy if I see some news just to quickly jump on and do a quick edit of a photo.
Yeah.
I'm actually in a similar space to you, as you know, because we've talked about it. I'm
Yeah,
in the
that's right.
UX world. I'm an applications manager of a high-tech company.
Nice.
So yeah, but it's very easy when you're working from home to see a bit of news and quickly be like,
Yeah.
oh, that makes a good meme, and then just get it out there before someone else does.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm not really that skilled at it at all. I do a lot of these in
Well,
Paint, if I'm
yeah.
honest.
I was gonna say, like, this is really good. Like, just yeah, opening up Photoshop or something and just kind of removing backgrounds and things like that. But I get it. Like I do a lot of, that kind of thing in the background as well. And that's the nice thing about sort of working from home. And but I have to admit, like, my productivity working from home is just so good in comparison to being in office environments sometimes, especially if I'm working with clients as well, like, in person. It's really difficult to kind of stay focused with a million questions flying at me. But it's funny, like, my productivity is increased working from home, but then I also have more time for, just kind of following what's going on in the FPL community or Twitter, or, sort of checking out some videos or podcasts and stuff as well. So yeah, I love that. It's so good. So swiftly moving on to your podcast. So I think, again, like, you tweeted about it, and so I came across, your podcast. Tell us a little bit, about press play, and how's that been going? Because it's not, you guys haven't been doing it that long either.
No, so it's actually Brian and Bucks have been doing it for a few years. They were
Ah,
previously the FPL Blues podcast, which you may have heard of or may not. It was mainly focused around Chelsea, and then it moved a bit more towards FPL. And I was already a big fan of their podcast. I love the energy those two guys have. I
yeah,
love that it's very casual, full of banter. And I used to listen to it every single week. And then because Brian actually lived in my area at the time, we
yeah,
met up for a drink and we talked about, hey, why don't we merge? Because the work that I was doing with FPL USA, the work that they were doing on the podcast, my personality also fits in quite well with their personalities. So we
nice,
thought, let's just combine forces here and create a 3-person podcast. Let's do a complete rebranding to FPL USA Press Play.
yeah,
Let's make it the official podcast of the FPL USA group.
yeah,
And of course, we have people like FML, FPL. We have Always Cheating. They're the elite podcasts. Everyone knows
yeah,
that. We know that. We're not trying to compete with them in any way. We love those guys.
yeah.
We just like getting together and talking FPL, having a bit of banter. And it's been going really well. Our views are going up. We have a lot of fun making them. We're having some great guests coming on. I know you're coming on in a few weeks'
Yeah,
time too.
I'm really
Um,
excited. Yeah, I'm looking forward to joining you guys.
Yeah, so we just love it. We just go on and it's kind of similar to this. We go on and we just have a good time because we all genuinely love football. We all love FPL. We're not very heavy on the stats because we all know that everyone else is better than us at that. You don't need to come on to press play to hear about stats when you've got the likes of The Wire and Black Box and things
Exactly.
like that out there. And Radar, who is a great FPL USA content creator, Kante, Wrangler, and Zidane's dad. Shout out to them. We're never going to be better than those guys. So we found a little niche and
I
we're
love
enjoying it.
that. Yeah, I love it. It's yeah, look, I really enjoy your podcast. It's brilliant. Like, listened to the latest episodes as I was driving back, from, or actually it was sort of in between. I started it as I was driving to Canberra. It's like a good 3-hour drive, and as you know, we have some amazing content creators over here in Australia as well. And a couple of really good podcasts as well, and I've mentioned them like a million times on these streams. So yeah, please do check out like SideNet, and FPL Amateurs of Australia as well. Like, they're really good podcasts that I do tune into. And Always Cheating is another one that I started sort of listening to, I think, this season, and of course, Press Play now as well. So there's not many other sort of podcasts that I'm listening to, outside of that little bubble. FML FPL is I think I've just newly discovered those guys. It's so funny, and
Hmm.
I was like watching some of it on the weekend because I was sick and didn't have anything better to do. And so it's funny because you don't have to be watching those guys because they're sat there and just talking. And but I chucked it on my TV, and I was there with my duvet and just kind of trying to keep warm and hydrate and everything in front of being sick. I'm a terrible sick person, and I was like trying to be a good sick person by sitting in front of the TV. Anyway, I was just laughing my head off, like, just all of everything that they were saying. I was just like, fuck, that's my life. That is my life right
Yeah.
now. This is what I'm doing. This is, my game week has been absolutely shit as well, which is probably a good segue into, talking about FPL finally, like we're sort of half an hour in or 40 minutes in. So for those that don't know much about Off the Cuff and, what I've been doing, firstly, thank you so much for joining us on Spaces and on YouTube. Really, really appreciate you being here. Especially if it's sort of, early hours of the morning, if you're in sort of anywhere between Europe and Australia anyway, like that's like 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. But if you're in the US as well, thank you so much for tuning in, this afternoon for you, and morning over here in Australia as well. So these are very, very, very informal, I would say, very rambly and very ranty, especially because like I'm having a bit of a shit season, but very rambly, very ranty. They're supposed to be super chilled, relaxed, the type of stream that you would grab your snacks. And I often sort of, those types of streams are the ones that I grab my popcorn and grab some Doritos or whatever and just kind of, just chill out and listen, and not necessarily need to go and take out my notebook or anything like that, because there's not going to be too many stats or anything like that. That's not this. And same as, press play as well. It's not the kind of stream that you would go to for lots of deep, meaningful FPL content. There's some really good content creators out there for that. So, that's not what this is. And also, it's very, very much one-sided. So if you're on Spaces and requesting to speak, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to be able to get you on as a speaker. So occasionally I'll have guests, and I've got Dan today, BlackWolf. But otherwise, it's very much one-sided. So I apologise, in advance for that. If you do have questions, though, please do drop us questions on Twitter, on the Spaces, just in the chat there, and also on YouTube as well. We'll try grabbing some of those questions as they're coming through. We are going to be talking about Wolves, so maybe hold off on any Wolves questions, because obviously there's a lot that happened on the weekend. But please like and subscribe as well. That's very much appreciated if you're tuning in for the first time on YouTube, especially. These are very sort of, off the cuff, unprepared. If you like this kind of content, please do like and subscribe, and please do check out Press Play, podcast as well. If you want to hear more from Dan and Bucks and, the other guys as well. So Dan, let's talk FPL. Let's talk about your game week. So I've got your team on the screen. Let me just see if I can, and maybe just kind of read out your team as well for those that are sort of listening. How did your game week go? Like how's your season going, and how's your game week gone?
My season's going pretty well, I think. I'm at 200k right now, which relatively is pretty good, considering I think a lot of the top content creators are much lower down than that. So I'm pretty happy with my overall rank. The game week itself, terrible. I made some bad decisions this week, I feel, and I got unlucky with my players coming off the bench. So my team is Areola in goal. I have Matt Cash and Trippier at the back, who got 0 points against Wolves, which I'm perfectly happy with, by the way. I took a minus... I took a -4 to bring in Gabriel for Botman, because I thought, that's a guaranteed clean sheet for Arsenal. And then, of course, he gets benched and gets a 0. And while all these other lucky people got Charlie Taylor off the bench for 6 points, I got Kabore. And I spent the whole of that Luton-Aston Villa game thinking, just don't come away with a -1, please. Don't get another yellow card. Don't concede a 4th goal. And I got lucky to get away with 0 points for him, I feel. In my midfield, I had Salah as captain, Maddison, who got me 6 points, pretty happy with that. Neto, yet another assist, but we'll talk about him later because he got injured.
Yeah.
I got Diaby, who really saved my game week. He got 13. And if I didn't have those 13 points from Diaby, I think I'd be in about 1 millionth in the world right now. He really saved my game week. And then I have Jared Bowen, Haaland, and Watkins. My moves were, and people are going to laugh and people are going to say it's a bad decision, but I'm sticking by this. I took out Son and I took out Alvarez to put in Watkins and Bowen. Because my thinking was, I can use the funds that I took out from Son getting Bowen, getting Watkins, and then also potentially bringing Saka in the next couple of game weeks.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was a good move. And up until the Crystal Palace goal, I think it was still a good move because Son was only something like 1 or 2 points more than Maddison,
Yeah.
for 1.6 million more money. So I felt like, well, that's okay, you know. But then, of course, the Crystal Palace goal went in and Son's bonus points took him up to 10. And now everyone's telling me that was a terrible decision. Why did you take out Son? I'm sticking by it. I think long term, that's a decent decision.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. You know what? Fuck. I'll come to my team in a moment. Oh man, like, so I'm not happy about the Trippier thing. Like, I'm so annoyed that, you know, Trippier got 0 points there. But you're right. Like, it's really good. You know, like, it was really good for Wolves from, you know, that point of view. But actually, no. Let's talk about the Son and Maddison thing. Like, because I don't think it was. I'm on the fence about this, right? Whether that was a good move or not, like, for me. So I wildcarded in game week 9, full game week 9. I had Son in my team in game week 8. And so I took out, and I had Maddison, so I had both. So I got rid of Son on my wildcard and kept Maddison. And then last game week I got rid of Maddison, brought in Saka. And so, you know, yeah. But I don't know, like, getting rid of Son in the long run, I don't know. There's a tiny part of me that wants to bring Son back in, but that's fear of missing out, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I took out Son because I really wanted Watkins, because I thought Watkins, with the 3 fixtures he had, he's going to get more points than Son. And I think that's a logical decision. If I hadn't put in Watkins, the whole community would have said to me, why the fuck didn't you put in Watkins? That was stupid. So it's just all hindsight, really. I know Son is an amazing asset. I know Son is better than Maddison. I know he's the number 9. I know he's going to get a lot of points.
Yeah.
People don't need to keep telling me that. But I thought using his funds and bringing in more assets to upgrade my entire squad, I felt like the players that I could afford by using the Son funds would combine to get me a higher points total in the next 3 or 4 game weeks. And I'm sticking by that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. And I'm so glad, like I say, I'm so glad that you're saying that, because I'm on the fence about, you know, do I bring him back? Do I not? Like, do I sort of basically uproot my team and sort of try and fit him in somehow? Or do I sort of carry on, you know, as I am, basically, and just stick to the plan that I had? And so just hearing you sort of say, well, no, this is good for my team. I'm glad, you know, like, you're doing it. Makes me feel slightly better about it as well. Like, I think we're not seeing that much of that, which is, I'm okay with this decision. You know, I'm okay with the decision of taking Son out. And I think, like, in comparison to you, I'm like 2.4, 2.3 mil right now, and having a terrible season. Like, I've just been toing and froing between 1 mil to 4 mil, you know, in the last sort of 10 game weeks. And so when you then see every team, especially in the bubble of, you know, the FPL community on Twitter, especially, you start wondering, you know, should I be covering myself by having these players like Son? And, you know, like, people had FPL managers going into last game week had both Son and Maddison. A lot of people, you know, got rid of one of them, like you. But a lot of managers have both, and largely Son in their team. They've not got rid of, you know, Son. They've kept Son, got rid of Maddison, and brought in Saka potentially, or, you know, another player. But when you see a lot of that, especially like you say, you're getting people respond to you saying, why don't you have Watkins? Why don't you have Son? Why don't you have this? And it's like, well, there's a fuck ton of players now that you can have.
That's the thing about this season, right? The way they've done the prices, and there's so many good assets and so many good teams this season with good fixtures, that I feel like every week we're debating, are we going to take out this good player and replace him with this good player? I think a lot of people have lost patience. Because I remember in previous seasons, you'd be quite happy to play the likes of, I don't know, Trippier versus Arsenal, for example. You know he's probably not going to get a lot of points, but, you know, whatever. But I feel like this season it's, you need this player, you need this player. They have Luton next week, they have Sheffield United next week. I was getting told that about Saka. He has Sheffield United. You have to put him in. I was like, no, I'm going to take the risk that he's not going to get more points than Maddison. So I decided to keep Maddison instead. And Maddison got 6 and Saka got 6.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I look like a genius, you know? It's just...
Me too.
I don't
Me too. I brought in Saka.
But the point is, there's so many good assets, and the points are going to fluctuate. You're going to get a player hauling one week and getting 2 points the next week, and it's just going to keep happening. I think as long as you be patient, as long as you follow a plan that you have, you'll be fine. But I know I don't have Saka. I know I don't have Son. I fully expect them to do well in the next couple of game weeks with not being in my team. But I also think the players I do have are also going to do well. You know?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it, right? And I'll actually. So before I sort of move on to my team, Salah versus Haaland captaincy. Obviously, there was some big captaincy swings this time round as well. I think as we were going into the game week, we kind of knew that was going to happen. So I think Saka was obviously a captaincy shout. Watkins, there was a lot of managers I noticed that went Watkins as their captaincy option there. So you went Salah, I went Salah in my team too. There was a moment where I was thinking Haaland. Was it sort of a done deal for you?
Can you repeat that one? Sorry.
Yeah, was it a done deal for you in terms of going for Haaland, going for Salah over Haaland?
Oh, yeah. And I don't know why. In hindsight, that was probably silly, but I just thought the form that Salah is in at home to Nottingham Forest, you kind of have to captain him, especially because I thought his EO would be so high. And I thought finally Haaland's EO is not so high that he would hurt me if I don't captain him. So I went for Salah. But fair play to people that stuck with Haaland and went with him as captain. It was a great decision.
Yeah, I think I started off the game week, so the bus teamy sort of few days that I had, where I had Haaland captain, and that was mostly because I was thinking about how terrible United have been. And I mean, they I can't remember who they played the previous game week now, but they didn't play very well, and so I just felt like it could be a really big one for Haaland. But then again, Salah's form, I just felt like it would be a no-brainer to go with Salah, against Forest. But I don't know. It's it's funny. It's funny when that happens, right? Because I think it would have been a close one either way. Because I think with Haaland, we've seen City not in their best sort of shape at the moment. Mostly because Grealish for them on the weekend looked really good. He was there supplying. I was chatting to Ryan from FPL Chatbox, another great content creator over here in Australia, and we were saying how Haaland's not getting the supply basically in the box, in his number 9 role, and so who is supplying to Haaland at the moment? And I think Doku was taking a lot of chances, and then Grealish sort of being back there, Rodri being back, and sort of helping out in that midfield as well. Obviously Foden got some returns as well. So I think we could have predicted that Haaland would have done well, just given that City are also getting back to their stride of sort of scoring goals and playing well. But United have been that bad as well, so. Yeah, it was hard. It was a tough tough call, but yeah, huge swing there for those that went Haaland captaincy.
Yeah, and I said this in my podcast last night actually about Grealish. A lot of people are talking about how much they miss Kevin De Bruyne, and there's no doubt they do. But I feel like Grealish is also a huge miss for them because him and Haaland have created a real good partnership. Yeah, Grealish is always finding him. He's making those early passes that Haaland makes those early runs to get on the end of. People like Doku, they were holding the ball for a lot longer. They were trying to take on players and passing the ball last minute. And Haaland had already made that run. And we saw it the weekend with Grealish back and with that double pivot of Rodri and Stones in the midfield. Yeah. They look a much better team, and Haaland got a lot more chances. And I think if they stick with that and Grealish plays a lot more games, Haaland's going to be getting the returns he was last season.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, I think there's obviously a lot of managers that have gone without Haaland in their draft now, and my brother-in-law is one of them who. So yeah, shout out to like my family members who I think have started to maybe tune in a little bit. Like I didn't tell anyone about this, and then eventually like yeah, a few people sort of worked it out, and I think they found me on Twitter or something like that. My brother-in-law found me on there. And anyway, so I've got two brother-in-laws who are very active playing FPL, and they got me involved in it, a couple of years ago when I went back to the UK. But my brother-in-law number one, he hadn't set up his team, so I was leaving the UK, coming back to Australia, before the start of this season. And I saw him, I think I saw him like a few days prior to the deadline. And I said to him, "What are you doing? You need to get your team set up." And it was like a contrast to a couple of years prior when I was leaving and they were like, "What are you doing? Why haven't you set up your team?" So anyway, I picked up his phone and I was like, "Oh, let's do your draft." And so I started sort of helping him out with his draft. And the funny thing is, he's something like 160,000 or something like that in the world right now. And he got rid of Haaland, more recently. So I help him set up his team, but then haven't really done anything, to help him because he started doing really well in the beginning. And I was like, fuck that, you're dead to me now. Like, your competition.
Right.
But he's doing really, really well. He got rid of Haaland from his team, and a couple of others, that I know quite well have got rid of Haaland as well. It's kind of worked out really well for them. I don't know how much it hurt them this time round, but yeah, they captained Salah and they had Son in their team as well. And that's the thing, like the price point that Haaland is, like removing Haaland immediately frees up so much money. Did you think about removing Haaland from your team at any stage, or like just no for you?
Yeah, personally, I didn't ever think about taking Haaland from my team. However, I'm not one of those people that are going to criticize those that did because it paid off. If you took Haaland out, you got all of those Salah captaincy whores, and we've seen a lot of people fly up the ranks that did that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to complain again. Like you see people criticizing those managers saying, "Oh, but he has Bournemouth next." Those managers knew very well that Haaland had Bournemouth this coming game week, and they fully expect him to do incredibly well. However, the points that they've made up with the Salah captaincy makes up for that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're fully expecting to get a little bit of a red arrow this week, but the green arrows they've got in the previous game weeks make it fine.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was a good
exactly.
decision in my eyes.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, just it's huge. I'm really glad we're seeing more of that as well. Like FPL managers taking a risk. Personally, I didn't want to get rid of Haaland from my team. I did very briefly last season. I think when and I brought in Alvarez and that was fine. Like that was like because Haaland wasn't playing, and so yeah, it was fine. But I wasn't keen on sort of removing him from my team, and maybe I'm being a little bit stubborn. So I've got my team up on the screen now, but maybe I'm being a little bit stubborn with my team at the moment. So I've got I've still got Trippier in the back there. So yeah, look at Areola. I was quite surprised that he got 3 points despite that. And West Ham, in my opinion anyway, I didn't enjoy watching some of that match at all. It was just, I was just like, what the
So
fuck?
I'm in California. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. to watch that match. And I just wish I stayed in bed, to be honest, because I had Areola and I had Bowen as well.
Yeah.
It's a terrible game. They looked really poor. However, Everton are a decent team. I think they've had a lot of criticism this season, and I think it's undeserved. They're a very good team, and I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the relegation zone.
No, I have to agree. I have to agree with that, which is hilarious because I've had Pickford in my team from the beginning. Right, I took him out on my wild card, and Pickford got me a clean sheet in game week 8, and then I took him out on the wild card, and I was like, okay, what's the likelihood of Pickford keeping more clean sheets? And then here we are, Pickford keeping a clean sheet against West Ham, and I've got Bowen in the team. So yeah, it's so hard. Like I feel like this week has been just an absolute sort of clusterfuck of a game week for me because on paper, my team looks really good. So I've got Areola there, Cash, Trippier, Simicast at the back. And that was a sub on from Gabriel because I started Gabriel and then, Simicast came in. I've then got Bowen, Gordon, Mitoma, Salah, Saka, and Haaland, Watkins, and on the bench, Taylor, Archer, Turner, and Gabriel, of course, because of the auto sub there. But when you look at it on paper, it looks really good. When I did my wildcard, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's a great team. I'm looking good for at least a couple of game weeks, and I've stopped looking at any points predictors or AI and stuff like that, and just playing with a lot more heart and a lot more gut, and trying to kind of like pick my players around the fixtures, and fixtures are super important. Form is very, very important as well. But you couldn't sort of look at any of those players and go, oh yeah, their form is terrible. Like everyone's form is decent. Like Haaland obviously had a bit of a dip, but Bowen, he's been getting returns. Like he's still sort of putting up the numbers, and Gordon has been all right. For a 5 point, I think I brought him in at 5.5 or 5.6. Mitoma has been looking good on the eye test, but just not getting the returns at the moment. Same with like Saka. Look, I took out Maddison, brought in Saka, and as you say, I feel good about that move because I broke even. It was like, okay, the worst thing that can happen is that you're on minus, numbers by that point, right? But I was quite happy that he got 6 points and matched Maddison's points there. But and the EO was more or less the same around my rank as well. So Maddison's EO and Saka's EO was like, there wasn't much in it. But not having Son hurt a lot, not having Diaby, a lot of managers around my rank have got Diaby and they've got Son and they captained Haaland. And so all of a sudden, my 60 points is just not cutting it. It's just not enough. I think it was like, 8 points off or 6 points off my safety score or something. I was really pissed off with the game week. And like I said earlier, I thought maybe I'll go into like our chat today being less annoyed about the game week, but I'm still annoyed. I'm still annoyed because on paper the team looks good. I don't know what I would have done differently. Would I have kept hold of Maddison? Yeah, maybe, and that would have given me the same number of points and still a red arrow. I don't know. Like nothing.
That's the thing, though, right? Like. It's all hindsight, really, because you were one player away from getting a green arrow. If you had Son, or if you had Diaby, or if you had Mbumo, you'd have had a green arrow, and you'd have been perfectly happy with this game week.
That's right.
You just got unlucky. I think your team is perfectly well set up going forward. I think it was a perfectly good team for this week. I don't see you've made any bad decisions. It's just one of those things. I know it's very easy to get pissed off with a game week. It happens to me too. I get really pissed off. But then I'm just like, you know what? I didn't make any bad decisions in my eyes. My team looks perfectly fine. Just stay patient and, you'll get returns next week, I feel.
Yeah, that's what I'm, counting on at the moment. I'm, but my knee-jerk kind of moves, or I guess like when we, it'd be good to start talking about what we're thinking for the next moves as well for the next game week. But the knee-jerky thing that came to mind was, do I get rid of Trippier? And I love Trippier, in my team, and I've enjoyed having him as well. But, the knee-jerky move is, like, do I get rid of Trippier, get rid of Bowen and bring in Son and, bring in a 4.5 mil defender and take a hit, basically, to do that for next game week. But it's very reactive and, it's not something that I don't feel like I'm that player anymore, like FPL manager, where in my first season I took so many hits, but now I'm trying to be a little bit more intentful and a bit more patient with my transfers as well, and I like my team going into the next game week as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main decisions you and I both have to make at some point soon. It's the Trippier decision, because there's a lot of funds tied up in him. Yeah. If we want people like Son and Saka in our team, we're going to have to take out Trippier. However, I'm like, I love owning Trippier. I really enjoy watching him. Even if they concede, he gets assist points, he gets bonus points, and he's becoming quite the differential going forward.
Yeah.
And I was looking at when I would take him out, and I would probably take him out in the next couple of game weeks if I decided to do so. But then I would probably want him straight back when they have a really nice run coming up in a few game weeks. So I'm like, do I just stick to my guns and go a little different to other people and keep Trippier in my team? I might just do that.
Yeah. Look, that's exactly what I'm thinking. At the moment, I just keep Trippier, a little bit longer and just ride it out. Like I'm not sort of unhappy with my team. But what are you thinking for your moves? But before we actually let's go there with your moves, and I'll tell you mine, and we'll take some questions. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about Newcastle and Wolves as well.
Sure. So I was originally planning on rolling this week because I had Pedro Neto against Sheffield United. I was
Yeah.
super excited about that differential, and then he gets injured, unfortunately. So now I'm kind of forced to take him out.
Yeah.
However, I've got a little bit of money in the bank. I think it leaves me with 6.6 million, which lets me afford either Mbumo or Matoma. So
Yeah.
one of those two are going to be coming in for Neto. And I did a poll on this on Twitter just to see other people's thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think it was something like 55% of people said Matoma. However, I'm actually leaning towards Mbumo because I really like the West Ham fixture next game week. Then I know he has two horrible fixtures against Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yeah.
But it's Mbumo. He's the talisman. He's on penalties. And then I would want him in game week 14 anyway against Luton.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, do I just save that transfer, hope that Matoma doesn't go crazy in the next 3 game weeks, and then give myself 2 free transfers to play with going forward? So I think that's where I'm leaning right now. It does mean I'm going to have to play Udogie at home to Chelsea and just hope he's fit. But otherwise, I've got Gabriel and Trippier in my defence playing each other, which is not ideal. But I don't want to take a -4.
No. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk Neto actually. Like I think I've covered my team. I'm gonna roll. I'm pretty much rolling. I think at the moment I'm thinking I'll be playing Simicast. In fact, I think it's exactly what we've got on the screen is what I'm going to be playing. So yeah, my auto sub is basically my bus team going into game week 11. So I don't think I'll be changing much there. But yeah, let's talk about Wolves. Actually, I discovered this thing where I scroll down and I saw these games over here, and I was like, "Oh, this is really handy!" Like without sort of having to, find it on a different page and everything. But yeah, let's talk about Wolves Newcastle because there were a couple of good games that were on, and I think we kind of covered a few of those games, and we can touch on some of the other ones as well, as we think about, going into the next game week anyway, and maybe we talk a little bit around what some of the other options are, like replacements and that kind of thing. But overall thoughts on your, for you as a Wolves fan going into the Wolves Newcastle match?
Yeah, I could talk about Wolves for hours, to be honest. I said before this game on my podcast that I feel like Wolves are going to do really well against Newcastle. I think they're going to set up more defensively, and I think they can get a result. We've heard a lot of people say how they expect Wolves to be so poor this season.
Yeah.
And I think they've proven that they're not a poor team anymore. They're a very good team. We had a lot of departures in the summer. We lost so many players. We lost like Jimenez, Traore, Podence, Neves, Moutinho. I could go on and the amount of players we lost. However, I don't mind the players we lost because a lot of these guys were on high wages. They were aging. They weren't really performing. The one player I miss is Neves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think he really fit our system. He's a really top quality player. His ability to pass the ball is second to none. He's so good at that. However, Wolves were directing all of their play through Neves. Every ball was going to him and then he was spreading it out wide. And we became so predictable and our play became so slow.
Yeah.
In losing Neves, we've now brought in players like Lamina and João Gomez and Traore and Cunha into the team, who are all very fast players on the transition. So we're actually playing a lot more exciting football, a lot more attacking football, and we're looking really good going forward. And at the start of the season, I was recommending some of these players, and the response I was getting from everyone is, but Wolves don't score, but Wolves don't score. And I finally feel vindicated because they are going to score goals this season.
Yeah.
Because of all of the changes we've made. We've got a very attacking manager now. And it's been proven because we've only not scored in one game, and that was game week 1 against Manchester United.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to be near the top 6, of course. I don't think we'll be upper mid-table, but I think we're going to comfortably avoid relegation.
Yeah.
Because we just look like such a good team, especially when we have everyone fit. So yeah, this result did not surprise me. I know it surprised a lot of people, but it didn't me.
No, I think probably because like I'm following, what you're saying about Wolves on Twitter, especially. I started noticing that they are definitely playing a lot better than what they have been sort of previous seasons. I mean, a lot of changes, of course, like you say, new system, all of that as well. But they're not in the bottom, in the bottom sort of 5 kind of team anymore. And I can't remember where they are in the league. Are they sort of 12th at the moment or 11th, something like that? But
Yeah, I think they're 12th or 13th right now.
Yeah, that's pretty good, right? And I think we forget that, right? Like we're from a typically like where Wolves have been in the last sort of four seasons or so, or 3 seasons or so. Yeah, at the very least that I've noticed anyway. Wolves sort of like just slowly chipping away, kind of becoming a good team again, and it's so nice to see that. And this match for me especially highlighted how well they are able to play as well. So I don't know, like I think I went into this match thinking Newcastle easily going to win, but then at the same time Newcastle were a little bit weak as well because they lost Murphy. They've not got Isak in the team either. And they've not got Botman there either. And so, but I was still convinced that, Newcastle win. And if anything, I walked away from this match feeling very surprised and really feeling good for Wolves, despite Neto getting injured, which is a real shame. But I think for those that are thinking replacements for Neto, obviously you're thinking Mbeumo. I did see your poll. And, I think I voted. So I've got Mitoma in the team and I voted Mbeumo. Maybe a bit more recency bias there with voting Mbeumo. But he's playing more than 90 minutes, right? And I think he's been getting these cheeky goals in, after 90 minutes, basically. And it just feels like he's a good pick, to bring in again, which is very annoying because I had Mbeumo for a good couple of game weeks. The game weeks where he didn't get any returns. So yeah, it's an annoying one because I've got Mitoma in the team. Yeah, look, what do you think, like in terms of replacements? But is He-Chan a good option, for example? Because a lot of players, FPL managers, will be thinking, I want to replace Neto with another Wolves player. Are there any other players that we should be considering from Wolves, especially? If not sort of He-Chan, what about defence as well?
Yeah, I've had a lot of questions about this, about how Neto's injury, if it affects Hwang. There's no doubt that it weakens Wolves as a whole and weakens He-Chan as an FPL asset. There's no doubt about that. However, considering the fixtures that we have, considering how much of a quality finisher He-Chan Hwang is, I think he is still a very good option for his 5.5 million price tag.
Yeah.
So I think anyone that's going from Neto to Hwang, it's a perfectly fine decision. We're playing Sheffield United next, and then we have Tottenham at home, and you can probably bench him, but he might also get a goal there, who knows? And then we've got like Fulham and Burnley coming up. So I think he's a perfectly good asset to put in your team.
Yeah.
I'm not going there personally because I can afford, like I said, Mbeumo and Mitoma, who I think are better assets. But if you don't have the funds, perfectly fine to go with He-Chan Hwang. In terms of Neto, the thing we're going to miss most about him, and we saw it against Newcastle, is Gary O'Neill is actually a very good tactical manager. And what he was doing is he was seeing how weak Burn was against Neto. So Neto was really hugging that touchline, and Newcastle had 3 players who were surrounding Neto, and
Yeah.
that gave so much space on the other side to Hwang and Cunha that they could exploit that space. So that's happening in most games. Neto is pulling away defenders, and then Hwang is all by himself on the other side of the field. So I feel like they're going to really miss that presence. Hwang
Yeah.
isn't going to get as much space as he was before. However, like I said, I still think with the quality that Wolves have in their squad, I still think he can be a good asset. I still think he can get returns considering our fixtures.
Yeah. Okay.
In terms of other assets, I probably wouldn't go there. I don't mind going for a defender if you want to rotate him with someone else. I love Aitnari as a player.
Yeah.
He bombs forward. He looks like he's going to score every single game. He's a little madman. He's favorited by Gary O'Neill, so he's been playing pretty much every single game. So I don't mind him as a punt. However, you do have to be prepared for him to come off early some games because he tends to get cramped. He also might get rotated when we have Hugo Bueno back.
Yeah.
So he is a slight risk. But if you do want to go into the defense, I really like Aitnari. Or if you want to go safe, Craig Dawson because of his goal threat.
Yeah.
But I think there's so many good assets in other teams for a similar price that you probably don't need to go with Wolves.
Yeah, that's such a shame. Yeah, because I think Neto was definitely a player that I was thinking about. It was between him and Gordon for me, and I ended up going, Gordon. No, that's fair. I think there was a question from one of the guys in Australia as well, FPL managers over here, who was asking about sort of Hechan or Cunha even. Yeah, no, it's good to know. Good to know. Thank you. And yeah, so like, what are you, with your sort of, I guess, going into game week 11, what are your sort of captaincy picks that you're considering at the moment? Because it's another one going into, so let me see if I can get to my pick team. So I've got my captaincy on Haaland at the moment, but are you sort of conflicted this time round between Haaland? Salah seems like the other obvious sort of captaincy pick. Watkins could be another option again. Is captaincy sort of a contention point for you?
Not for me this game week. I don't think there's any way I'm going to captain anyone other than Haaland. However, if you don't like Haaland, if you don't own Haaland, I think Salah is a perfectly good captaincy option this week. I can't remember who it was, but someone tweeted how many chances that Luton give up from that right-hand side.
Right-hand side,
So I think there's whole potential for Salah here, for sure.
Yeah.
But with Bournemouth at home for Haaland, he could go crazy that game. There's no way I'm not going to captain him. I think his ownership's going to be very high because I think everyone that owns him is going to captain him.
Yeah,
Watkins, I think that's a very, very rogue punt. Why not? But I think Aston Villa are a lot stronger at home than they are away. And if you've got Salah and Haaland in your team, I don't see why you would risk going for Watkins unless you really feel strongly about him hauling and you have to make up some rank. But it's incredibly risky. I would not go there.
No, totally, very, very risky, and it's like the FPL managers that decided to go Watkins this game week, or game week 10 against Luton. I feel so bad for anyone that went Watkins, captain. That's a really tough one because it seemed like the obvious sort of captaincy there, especially because Watkins has been returning consistently. But you're right, I think between Haaland and Salah, and obviously those that don't have Haaland will probably likely go Salah. But it is tempting to go Salah. It is tempting. Like even I'm sort of like, I've got my captaincy on Haaland again. I've done what I did last game, game week 10, which is started my captaincy on Haaland and then shifted it onto Salah. But I'm hoping that I'll stick with Haaland this time round. It's just a home fixture. I'm just looking at it as
who is the earlier game? Out of curiosity.
Good question. Who is the earlier
I like to look at that because
there you go, yeah. Fulham United. What do we reckon? Fulham 1-0 against United?
Yeah, probably. Man United are a team to target right now. But I was more looking at who plays first out of Man City or Liverpool
Yeah, true.
because
Yeah.
I hate captaining a player who doesn't do anything, and then the player I was also considering plays afterwards,
Yeah.
and then he goes and hauls and he just ends the weekend on a shit. So,
Yeah, well, so these are times obviously for me in for us in Australia here. So the last match is the last captaincy match anyways, Luton Liverpool, and that's going to be annoying 3:30 in the morning for me in next Monday. So
I didn't realize how
yeah,
bad the times are for you.
I
Like
wasn't
2 a.m.
kidding.
games on a Saturday.
Yeah, I wasn't kidding. It's pretty fucked. Like that is not
There's
fun.
me. I complain about having to wake up at 3 a.m. on a Saturday for the deadline so I can catch the 4 a.m. games. And here's you with a 2 a.m. kickoff.
Oh
So
yeah, totally.
that's,
Yeah, it's like yeah, I just don't. I just don't. I think when the clocks change over here and then they change in the UK as well, it makes it harder. So autumn to October basically to March is the tougher sort of round of matches to watch overnight. Whereas start of the season, you can still get like a 9:30 p.m. kickoff because the time difference is only 9 hours, and the time difference right now is 11 hours. So it's a pain. So when the clocks changed again, I was just like, yeah, this is going to be harder. So that basically means I'm waking up early in the morning sometimes. Like there's some early morning matches. So with the Champions League on and the European matches, they'll be on at like 7 a.m. on the weekday, which is really good because I'm an early riser. I normally get up at like
yeah.
5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And so, for me, that's not too bad. And if I'm waking up like for that 7 a.m. match, that Spurs Chelsea, I'll probably be up for that one. Yeah, watching that.
Yeah, but I love like on a Saturday morning when it's the weekend and I get up nice and early with my coffee and I get to watch a whole bunch of Premier League games. And I'm looking at your screen and I'm seeing the first game is at 11:30 at night on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for you right now.
No, it's, yeah, like, well, there's been a couple of occasions as well where I've come back from a night out and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I've got home or something, and I'm thinking, bed, sober up, or watch matches, sober up, kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm the same thing. Like I said, I have a 3 a.m. deadline most weekends. I'm like, do I stay up for the 3 a.m. deadline? Do I go to bed early and set my alarm? It's a nightmare.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna do some Q&A, like we're hitting sort of 1 hour 20 minutes. It's been so good chatting to you, Dan, and like I say, like some
Wow,
of these
time
streams have gone
flies.
on. Yeah, some of these streams have gone on for like 2 hours and stuff, and I'm hitting 9:20, and I managed to push out my first meeting to like 10 a.m. this morning, which is great. So, I was able to do. I looked at the time and I was like, yeah, let me just move that one. That's not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
No.
But I wanted to just quickly show you and get your sort of, so as I've been doing like a little bit of planning, there's some data that I quite like looking at as well. And I've come across Foad's data that he's been, visuals that he's been putting together. And so, yeah, huge shout out to Foad. And he's been doing like these really nice threads on Twitter, and like this particular one, it's calling out the best defensive teams, and yeah, it's just really, really good, useful information. So I occasionally sort of take a glance at this and have a look, and there's some really good content out there, and some really good data visuals available. But yeah, I quite like this one. I don't know if it was because of the yellow. I quite like orange, as a color in general, and
Mhm.
I quite like So there's certain colors that I'm drawn to. So yeah, your display picture is something that always sort of pops up in my feed, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's Dan, and
Yeah,
so I
the
think it
black
was
and gold. It
yeah, the
really
black
sticks
and
out.
gold, exactly. Yeah, so I think with Foad's visuals as well, I really love them, and yeah, he's really clever with how he's displaying them as well. But yeah, this was really interesting to see with the best defensive teams, in the PL so far, and I mean some of it's pretty obvious, like defense wise, good defense. Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea. Chelsea's been interesting, hasn't it? And Crystal Palace is the one that I'm like a little bit surprised about, given that their attack is so poor at the moment. Not having Eze and Elise there, it's really hard, isn't it? So. Yeah, which means that their defense is also getting hammered with lack of playtime further up the field. So it's tough, but tempted, by one of their defenders though as well. I just wanted to kind of like highlight and just give him a bit of a shout out that there's some really good data that he's putting together in visuals as well. This was an interesting one, right? Like, so underlying team strength, and like, not surprised about Brighton over here on this side with their attack up and defense. Their defense has just been awful, at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's me thinking I still want to bring Estupinian back into my team at some point, but I don't know if I even go there. So I think back in my mind, I was thinking I'll take out Trippier and bring in Estupinian later. But now, I don't know what's going on with Estupinian's injury. If he's actually going to be back next weekend, which was the plan, or is he sort of further delayed in that? But no big surprises.
I'm not sure if he's back at the weekend, but I do know he's training on grass again. So I think it's pretty imminent that he returns. And I think he's still going to be a good asset if he gets the same level as minutes as he was before. Because you own him for his attacking returns, don't you? That guy looks like he's going to score every game. He just bombs down the field.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But no sort of major surprises there other than Everton over here, where, interestingly, their attack and defense being sort of borderline there, which was, again, another bit of a surprise there. Palace, again, defensively good, attack not so good. Yeah, so some of these things, we kind of know. I think the biggest surprises were Brighton. We were visibly seeing that, but Everton, and we mentioned that earlier as well, that Everton are actually, emerging as a bit of a solid, kind of stable-ish team there.
They're a really good team. Dyche has got them playing really well. And I'm kind of hoping that they get a nice run later in the season and Dominic Calvert-Lewin is still fit.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have him back in my team at some point.
Yeah. And, it just occurred to me, I've got quite a few away fixtures, in my team at the moment as well. So, Villa away, you got Liverpool away, you've got, Arsenal away, you got West Ham away, Brighton is away. There's a lot of away fixtures in my team. So this was a really good kind of visual to sort of see the top home sides there. And I think he's got there we go, top away sides. And so Arsenal, as we know, play decent away. So I'm kind of glad that I've got Saka in the team. I just hope Saka plays, and if he gets a pen, he doesn't sort of give away those pens either. I think it will be interesting, to see how they sort of shape up. Tottenham, I don't have any Tottenham players, but are Tottenham playing away? Is Chelsea? No, actually Tottenham's home, isn't it, to Chelsea?
Tottenham are at home to Chelsea, yes.
Yeah, okay, that'll be fun.
So I think that's a decent fixture for the attackers.
Yeah, definitely. And you got Chelsea, there on the top there as well, and Tottenham right up there as well. So, and Liverpool have been pretty decent away, unlike their usual sort of record of playing away as well. So, so check out Fouad's. He's been doing these this new sort of player comparison as well. I really like it. Just the data that he's sort of capturing in there, and a lot of time, energy, effort I'm sure goes into creating visuals like these, but just really good. And actually I'll tweet that one out. I quite like that one. Some really good stuff there. But let's take a look at the questions. So there were some early questions that came in, so while I sort of dig out some of the questions, maybe Dan, you can help sort of answering some of these. So I'll start from the bottom over here. So Neto replacements, I think we kind of covered that from Chewy FPL. But
I think so. I think if you don't have any funds, I think it's perfectly fine to go straight to Hwang Hee-chan. Other than that, if you don't have 3 Aston Villa, I don't mind Douglas Luiz, considering he's on penalties. I don't think he's anywhere near the best Aston Villa asset, despite the returns he's been getting, but I think he's a perfectly fine budget option.
Yeah.
And then you also have Cole Palmer at Chelsea. I know their fixtures are pretty terrible right now, and you're going to be wanting him in your team probably game week 16 onwards when their fixtures turn.
Yeah.
But we saw even at the weekend when they lost to Brentford 2-0, he created so many chances. I think he was top of the table for chances created. So I wouldn't mind him to free up funds also, considering he's only 5 million.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's good. Adrian had a question for us as well. Planning to roll my transfer for game week 11 and look to go Alvarez to Archer as an enabler to upgrade Nakamba and revert back to a 3-5-2-4 format. Thoughts? So let's just have a look at his team over here.
So what was his question?
So his question, let's just go back to there. The question was, planning to roll my transfer for game week 11 and look to go Alvarez to Archer as an enabler to upgrade Nakamba and revert back to 3-5-2 format. I wonder if the question's a bit more around the format. Yeah.
Yeah, so what he's doing is he wants to play Alvarez versus Bournemouth, and then next week with 2 free transfers, move out Alvarez to someone like Archer.
Yes.
And then use the funds to upgrade Nakamba. Yeah, that makes sense. I would do that.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
I would definitely do that. I know Alvarez has been getting a lot of returns lately, but their fixtures are turning soon.
Yes.
I think there's so many good options in that midfield spot right now with so many good fixtures coming up that 3-5-2 is probably the best formation to go.
Yeah, I agree. I stuck with 3-5-2 in my team. There's a tiny part of me that wishes that I'd gone, 3-4-3, just because like Darwin and Alvarez just kind of emerging as really good options. I mean, Alvarez has been there for quite a while, but with Watkins sort of coming into the mix, I've been very tempted to go back to a 3-4-3 sort of thing, as well as a formation.
You mentioned Darwin there. I do really like Darwin as a pick. I would love to go there, but I just can't bring myself to do it. If he wants to upgrade, I'm calling it an upgrade, Alvarez to Darwin for his fixtures, why not?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I really like I would love to bring in Darwin. And yeah, I would actually we can sort of go through some punts as well. So this is, I think, the last question that came up as an earlier, when we posted this out. So FPL Nerd, what I'm struggling with, though, how to set up my defence for game week 11 since my best ones have hard fixtures. This is my bench, and looking at the fixtures for them, so I'm kind of in a dilemma. And this is the thing, like those that have gone without Haaland, right? That there's so many good options, and it makes it very difficult. Like there's so many benching sort of headaches there. I mean, obviously you won't want to play Solanke against City, but just looking at this team, what do you reckon? Like from a benching?
I mean, I touched on this earlier. I think we're losing sight of what we had in previous seasons, where we're perfectly fine playing a defender with a hard fixture just for one game week. For the long-term game. Yeah. I think people are looking at their squads this week and panicking because they have defenders with difficult fixtures. His team looks perfectly fine to me in defence. Anderson, away to Burnley, good fixture. Cash, away to Nottingham Forest, perfectly fine. I honestly even think Pedro Porro at home to Chelsea is perfectly fine. He's got White for his run next week. I'd probably be tempted to play Trippier over Pedro Porro. I don't know about that though. But if he does want to make a transfer, he could do Porro to Simicaz or something like that for the next few game weeks. And then he has Trippier and White ready for game weeks to come. Yeah, nice. But if he wants to roll the transfer with this team, I think it's perfectly fine to do that. I don't think people should panic just because they have a slightly difficult fixture. Pedro Porro could easily come away with 12 points in that game. We never know. Yeah, I completely agree. I don't feel comfortable, benching Trippier like in that match, but I can see the dilemma there as well. I'll be benching Gabriel. Like, so annoying. Oh fuck. Can we talk about Gabriel for a moment? Sorry, I've just had like a brain fart there. Like with Gabriel, I've still got Gabriel in the team.
I don't know. Like it's one of those things where I brought in Gabriel, from game week 1, and he wasn't playing. Started to, I was like, I'll be patient with this. Um, I didn't take him out my team. Played my wild card. Still didn't take him out my team. He's getting minutes. He's playing well. Got me some clean sheets as well. And then he got benched. And now I'm like, wow, is Gabriel a problem again? And it's like I'm being held hostage a little bit by sort of, Arteta and Gabriel, whatever's going on there. It's very frustrating, very frustrating.
I Yeah, I think it's okay though. Honestly, I think I saw a quote somewhere saying that they did an analysis of the players and all of the games they've played, and Gabriel has played something like 14 in a row, if you include the Brazil games that he played.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that Arteta just looked at that Sheffield United game, knew that they did not need Gabriel in that team, wanted to give the other guy some minutes, and decided to give him a tactical rest.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it. I think he comes straight back in for Newcastle, then I think he has another run of games.
Fair enough.
But it is annoying, isn't it? I took a -4 for that guarantee clean sheet.
Oh, did you? Oh no. Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, that was my -4.
That was your
I took a
-4
because I had Botman.
Oh my god.
I had Botman and I saw that Adogi was going to be out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just take the -4 for Gabriel and just guarantee myself an extra 2 points because Gabriel's going to get the clean sheet for sure. And then, of course, he doesn't play and I get Kabore off my bench. So that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, so frustrating. But look, I'm just gonna be patient. I'm gonna have to be patient. I have to be patient. Like I can't sort of, it's the same with like the no Son in my team or no Madison in the team. I think I have picked a strategy and I'm going to just play it out for at least a game week or two, just to see. Hopefully, fingers crossed,
Exactly.
it sort of works out. Can't be making any.
And you were gonna.
Yeah, go on.
You were going to bench Gabriel this week anyway, right? Against Newcastle?
Yeah, I was going to. But I wanted to, it just so happens that, so I benched Simicast last game week because I thought Forest is more likely to score a goal against Liverpool than, Sheffield scoring against, Arsenal, basically, which is why, I had to. Yeah, and in hindsight, I don't know. I would have benched Trippier? Yeah, right. There's no fucking chance I would have benched Trippier, right? So it's one of those things where you just, it's just typical FPL, as everyone says. Anyway, I'm going to go through the chat, actually. There's been quite a few, there's been a fair bit of conversation in there. I'm sorry that, I haven't been ignoring you guys, just having a good sort of chat and rant with Dan. But let's see what questions came in. So I think there was a question from Nick Palmer. For those of us who don't have Son, how essential is he and how quickly should we make plans to get him in? Yeah, we kind of talked about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in the minority here. I don't think he's essential if you are using his funds to upgrade the rest of your midfield. I think he's a great asset. He's going to get a lot of points. There's no doubt about that. But you got to hope that those funds that you're spreading elsewhere gets you a combined total of more than Son as an individual asset. That's my feelings on it. I think you're probably going to want to bring him back in like 3 or 4 game weeks, I think it is, when they play Nottingham Forest away and then they have another nice run of fixtures.
Yeah.
I think I'd want to be back on double Tottenham at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in between that, they've got Newcastle, they've got Man City. I know Son can score against anyone, but I don't think he's essential.
No, I don't know. I think it's FOMO for me more than anything. It's but I go back to my team and I look at the fixtures that my current team has and I'm thinking, again, it's like before going into the game week, it's like, my team looks great. It's wonderful. Everything is fine. And then the game week ends and I'm like, what the fuck were you all doing? Like, why did you not play? What was going on? Where are the points? And then, start of the game week again, like, so this week I'm looking at my team and I'm like, my team looks great. Everything is fine. There's nothing to worry about here. I know so I'm going to manage my expectations going into game week 11 that it may not sort of work out the way I want it to. But again, you're playing the fixtures, right? And
Yeah.
Son could
And
score.
you're taking out exactly, and you're taking out good assets to replace some good assets. We've been doing that all season. I was looking at my game week 12 team because that was when I was considering bringing Saka in. But then I'm like, all of my 5 midfielders that I have for that week have very good fixtures. Do I really want to like restructure my team just to bring in Saka when he can wait another game week and I can bring him in then when my fixtures turn in my team and I have 2 free transfers?
Yeah.
Like, you have to take some of these risks this season. I fully expect someone like Saka to do amazingly well against Burnley, but maybe he won't. Maybe he'll just get an assist. Maybe he'll blank. Maybe he'll get rested.
That's right.
I don't think anyone is essential as long as you have a plan to get them at some point.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've gone through most of the chat. There weren't any questions, and I think where they were, the chat sort of, had a chat with each other. So yeah, love that. I'm still getting used to having a chat, like with doing a live stream straight to YouTube. So this is the third one that I've done, and so sometimes I forget, that it's there, and so it's a nice reminder on the screen as well. But thank you so much for being there, YouTube, chat folks that are there and having a conversation. I do appreciate it. Just checking if there were any other questions that came through. I think there was one from Daza. I don't know if I'll be able to get it on the screen, but he's got any transfer suggestions, or do I roll? I think, Daza, we can take a closer look at that one after we've sort of ended the stream. Because we're approaching, about an hour and 40 minutes in. How are you doing? How are you doing, Dan? Thank you so much for joining, today. I know it's eating into your daytime.
It's fine. I could talk to you for hours about this stuff, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, you know what? I was chatting to Ray about this the other day, where we just got on a phone call very briefly to talk about Arsenal players, and we were just chatting away, and we were both like, this is why why we do the spaces, and why, like, because it's just a conversation, and sometimes you're just kind of shooting the shit around, do you bring in a player, do you not bring in a player, and that's how it started, doing these spaces. It was because I needed to just, voice what I was thinking about, like, the players that I've got in my team and what's going on, with my season, that kind of thing, and just talking about it. And you either have people listening or you don't have people listening, or and so this is just a great way of just chatting. So thank you so much for being part of the journey as well, and just having the conversation and talking about this. And maybe we can get you on. I can get you on again to just to have even if it's just to have a rant or whatever. But
I would love to. A little bit off topic. I was actually curious because I know you're a British expat who moved to Australia. I'm a British expat who moved to the US.
Yes.
And we both have a little bit of a twang in our accents.
Yeah.
Like, I sound a little bit Californian, you sound a little bit Australian. I was curious if we would go a little bit more British, but I don't think we have.
I'm not sure. Maybe I do notice, you probably get this a lot as well. So whenever I'm talking to someone who's from the UK, my English, now it's going to come out a bit more English. And, but when I'm talking to anyone from Australia, it just goes into the Aussie twang.
Yeah.
But I spent, I was just going to say, I spent a lot of my career, working with a bunch of South Africans and a couple of Americans in my team. Like, I was working in a digital agency in London before I moved over to Australia, and I had a bit of a South African accent sort of occasionally coming through because I was around them all the time. So, but no, it's not really changed too much for me. I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I just find it funny when I'm talking to people here, I sound very British and I'm foreign. And then when I go home to the UK, they're all like, oh, you sound like you're from America or California or something. So they think I'm foreign too. So I just have no home right now.
Oh, Dan, don't get me started on that. Honestly, I'm from my family. grew up in. So my parents actually grew up in Kenya, East Africa, and but my the origins of my family are from India. I have not lived in India, or I've traveled back to India like quite a few times. I've got some family there still, but my parents grew up in Africa and then moved to the UK. So whenever I've gone to India, they're like, "Well, you're not from here," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm not. You're right, but I am Indian." And then in the UK, it's like, "Well, you're obviously not from here," and I'm like, "Well, I was born here, so I am from here." And moving to Australia, it's like, well, we can't really work out where you're from. And this was, I think I was at a match. I think it was India versus Australia cricket match or something. And I'm sat there with my Indian, cricket shirt on with an Aussie flag. And I was talking to a couple of mates that had come over from the UK with a really thick English accent. And the fans sort of around us like turned around and was like, we can't work out where you're from. Like, what is going on here? Like, I'm supporting them all.
Yeah. I can relate to that for sure. Happens to me all the time.
Yeah, so home is now Australia for me, though. It's been home for me for almost 10 years. In fact, I think it was 10 years ago to this day that I left the UK. And it's 1st of November is when I left the UK and moved to Australia, or made my way to
Nice.
Australia. Yeah, I stopped over in the Middle East for a little while and holidayed for a bit.
Nice. Yeah, I've been in California for 12 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I've been here a long time. I still have my English accent, but it's definitely got a California twang to it now.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it, occasionally, especially like when I'm listening to you on the press play podcast as well. Like it kind of comes through, I think, a little bit more when you're talking to the other guys as well on there. So yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Drives me crazy. I want to keep my British accent.
Yeah. I think we just have to work on it. I think when I got back from the UK, all my work colleagues were like, "Oh, you sound very proper and English," and I was like, "Yeah, thanks, guys."
Exactly.
But Dan, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning, this afternoon, with you, and this evening with everyone else as well in the UK. Thank you for joining us. It's been really great talking to you today. And where can we find you, Dan? Like, you're on Twitter, right?
Yeah, so I just want to answer a question quickly on YouTube. Travis has asked how I pronounce Nike. I'm going to say Nike because in America they call it Nike, and I can't get on board with that, so I still say Nike just to answer that question.
Okay. I call it Nike.
Yeah, they say Nike.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say Nike, they say Adidas, and they say Puma. Whereas my accent, I say Nike, Adidas, and Puma. So
That's interesting. Yeah, I say Adidas. Maybe I did say Nike when I was in the UK. I'm not sure now, but I've been calling it Nike because Australia does a bit of a hybrid of the UK and US. I mean, they say data here, and I sort of say data.
Yeah, who knows? We're a mixture of all these kind of languages now. But anyway, yes, you can find me on Twitter, or X as they say right now, at FPL_BlackWolf. And also our podcast is at FPL USA Press Play. And I do that with Brian and Books. We release episodes every Tuesday. And we have guests from around the community join us most weeks. And Meera's going to be on November 20th.
Yes, I am. I'm really looking forward to that. Very exciting. And thank you for having me on, as well. But Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here, and great to talk to you.
Yeah.
Great to kind of, rant with you. And I need to probably introduce the swear jar. I did swear a lot today as well. So yeah, apologies, but also sorry, not sorry. It's been that kind of it's been that kind of a game week. But thank you to everyone that joined us as well. If you like this, please do like and retweet and subscribe as well. It really helps. It's a pleasure always to talk to you all. Thank you again. Take care. And catch you hopefully in the next one very soon. See ya. Bye.
Thank you.